I've just carried out a routine inspection, and I wanted to use this property as an example for investors who are considering purchasing properties that have quite a bit of yard, and when you look on the marketing photos, the lawn looks dead. So this is something I bang on about to investors when I carry out pre-purchase inspections for them. I can see that the grass looks dead, and immediately my first thought is there's no reticulation to the property, and therefore, you know, is going to look a bit nasty and is a bit of an issue for tenants to maintain. So in the next video, you're going to have a look and see what I'm talking about.
This is a fairly typical front yard in Camillo, which is in the southeast metro area of Perth, and you can see here the grass is exceptionally dry. There is no reticulation present. Reticulation is another word for irrigation for those in the eastern states, and this is what happens when a tenant, all they have is a hose and a sprinkler. With our incredibly hot summers here, it's nigh on impossible to keep grass green. So it doesn't look great, but unless you've got reticulation, then you're not going to get a great lawn.
So the solution here is to either set aside funds and to invest in getting reticulation put in. That can be quite costly though, particularly if you've got a large front yard. So you could be looking at, you know, a few $1,000s. Now you might sort of think, what? But there's a lot of labor involved. People need to dig up the ground, to lay the pipes, apart from the actual purchasing, of course, of the materials, solenoids for sprinklers, retic control boxes and that kind of thing. And also in this particular situation, with the fact that there hasn't been anything here for some time, the ground, which is mostly sand here in Perth, gets quite hard, and you can imagine that the grass, well, dead roots are quite matted underneath. So the labour component of it is potentially going to be quite extensive. So that's one solution. The other one is to just consider perhaps going and re-landscaping the front yard entirely, looking at water-wise plants, maybe putting down some wood chips or decorative stones, that kind of thing. Not really sure what the cost would be for that, but if you think about in terms of moving forward, it's going to be less water usage for the tenant. No tenant wants to invest their own money in watering someone's large front yard. They're time poor as well. Who wants to actually be outside with a sprinkler and making sure that every square inch of the grass is receiving water? It's time consuming. They've come home from work, they're exhausted. Nobody wants to do that. So however you can make the tenant's life easier and is going to make your life easier in the sense that your property is going to present a lot better, and it's going to present well when you ultimately want to sell the property. So I always say start with the end in mind. You know, how do you want it? What are your goals? What's your end goal for this particular property? If you want to maintain the capital growth on it, and also, you know, increase your yield, you need to put money into it. So yeah, there's just a couple of tips for our very hot Perth summers, and for properties that have quite a bit of grass in these southeast metro areas of Perth that do have larger blocks. This is fairly typical of what you get, also in other areas as well, of course. But these are going to be sort of within the cheaper suburbs of where investors are likely looking to purchase. So yeah, you have to kind of consider that. The other option is you say, right, okay, I'm going to contribute X amount to the water usage for the tenant during the summer periods, giving them an incentive to actually apply water to the grass. But you can't expect a tenant to have a lush lawn when it's dead when they move in. Obviously the property condition report prevails, you know, in that situation. So this is just an example, and a heads up, if you are looking at purchasing a property, consider this in advance if you are looking at something that does have a dead grass in the photos already, and it's quite an expansive area.